From the Grave I Crawl by Epic Insanity 666. Chapter 10. Sitting within a cafe in Vale, Team Stork and Outcast were spending a daily routine of a Saturday evening, with Naruto and Summer speaking like old friends. Crow was currently checking out the waitress with a sleeping lad as he leaned back into his chair. Raven looked to Lucian, who was on his scroll, while Taiyang looked around with a yawn, with Jason absent due to him getting their orders. Looking to Crow with a raised eyebrow as he was openly checking out the waitress, she made a kick for his leg to stop him, but got a yell of pain in response as his hand shot to his jewels, with Naruto and Summer looking to the male Bronwyn, whose head was on the table in agony, while Raven had an apologetic look on her face. This new outlook in life was thanks to her and Naruto hanging out together with their teams. With Naruto's words and personality, she was on her way to becoming a kinder person, but her cold and ruthless demeanor always returned when on the battlefield, a place where Naruto's personality took a full turn like hers did. Becoming cold and ruthless, the two were basically the same kind when fighting. But right now, the two teams were waiting for Jason to return with their orders, with Raven tending to her brother as Naruto and Summer returned to their talking, with Lucian trying not to laugh at Crow's face of pain, while Vlad let out a snort. Your bitch attitude may have been gotten rid of, but you still have a good kick, sis, Crow said, with Taiyang paling at the thought of being victim, while Raven had a look of raised eyebrow. Really, Crow? You want me to kick you again? Please, I'm in enough pain as it is. Crow winced as Jason's voice spoke. Who wants some food? Looking all but Vlad saw Jason with a bacon strip in mouth, walking to them with 2 trays of breakfast servings. Holding the trays out, everyone got their food, with Naruto, Raven, and Summer's hands touching as they reached for a plateful of bacon and eggs. Pulling his hand away with a sheepish smile, Naruto spoke. Ladies first, Naruto said, with Raven and Summer looking at each other, with Raven reaching for another plate, while Summer smiled slightly as she got her plate of bacon and eggs and her 3 cookies. Getting his own plate of bacon, Naruto pulled up a chair for Jason, who set the trays down for Crow, Taiyang, and Lucian. Looking to Vlad, who was still motionless, his head turned to everyone as they looked to him. What? Vlad questioned. When did you wake up? Crow groaned as he turned his head to the Bat Faunus, who raised his own eyebrow behind his shades. When did I fall asleep? Vlad questioned with a smirk, showing his canines, making Crow and Taiyang stare at him as the waitress walked by, accidentally bumping into Vlad, who stood up to help her from falling over. The group, seeing her place a piece of paper into his jacket pocket, she thanked him with a shy smile before walking off. With Vlad giving her a 2-fingered salute, he sat down with a frown at seeing the jealous looks from Taiyang and Crow, and Lucian laughing loudly while Naruto was slowly capping. What? Check your pockets, Jason said as he picked up his own plate, looking up to see Vlad looking at the paper in his hands. Keep checking me out, and I'll show you a night, Vlad read out before he smiled with a chuckle. It even has her number, Vlad said, with Naruto choking on his bacon with a laugh. Ow! Oh God, Naruto said with a small laugh. Why is it you and Naruto have all the luck? Crow questioned, with everyone giving him a slight grimace, due to them all finding out about his semblance, along with Raven's semblance still in question. Naruto being the unlucky victim to be shown the two, with Naruto slipping into Raven's towel-covered being after the door's hinges were broken from Jason smacking his back after a joke. It still eluded everyone of why Raven didn't try to hurt the blonde for, dare I say, groping her breast as they laid on the ground. But back to the cafe, the 8 friends were enjoying their breakfast before the cafe was overshadowed from above. Looking up, Taiyang's eyes widened in awe. No way, it's an Elysian airship. I thought they were still reconfiguring its defense systems, Taiyang said, with Vlad and Naruto looking at it with narrowed eyes. Seems they finished early, Naruto said, with Vlad and Crow humming in agreement, before both Summer and Naruto scrolls beeped. Looking up from the message, the two shared a look. Alright, everyone hurry up, the headmaster called us back to Beacon, Naruto said as he stood up, confusing everyone as Summer also stood up. He's right, the headmaster has recalled all teams, including the other year ones, Summer said, with Vlad and Jason getting up, leaving the other 3 seated until Lucian took the rest of his bacon and followed after them with the bacon strip in his mouth, followed by Crow and Taiyang. Standing within his new office with his assistant, Osman, Merlin watched the airship slowly fly towards their docks. Are you sure it would be wise to let the general stay here after the damage his grandfather caused to the kingdom during the war all those years ago? Osman questioned as he stood beside Merlin, staring at the airship as he talked. The headmaster spoke. I know, old friend, which is why I called all teams back to the academy. Subtle caution, if you will, and I know not to trust the man for his past crimes, because war changes many people, Merlin said before he saw a convoy of bullheads fly to the outskirts of the city, mostly the forest area. Now, where are they going? Merlin muttered in suspicion before Osmond continued. I also do not trust this Lieutenant Mr. Hyde. May have a record for completed missions. The casualties do not bode well for the people, Osmond said, with Merlin turning to him. You can relax, friend. No need to go gray-haired on me now. I'm supposed to be the elder here, Merlin said, with Osmond chuckling softly. Sitting down at his desk, Merlin looked to reports as Osmond held up his scroll before he had a suspicion. Headmaster, shall we send a team to investigate the bullheads that split off? Osmond questioned, with Merlin looking up, with Merlin thinking of it before he sighed. Very well. Do you have a team in your thoughts to send? Merlin said, with Osmond smiling, holding up his scroll, as to show the voice of Naruto walking through a crowd of people unnoticed, even with a coat of bright orange and a smile of mischievous intent. I have two in mind, Osmond said as he switched the video to see Naruto and Lucien running with Summer at their side, and an angry crowd after them. And stepping off of the emergency bulkhead on Beacon's grounds, Naruto and Summer immediately made their way to the headmaster's office in the now finished tower. Walking with their teams returning to their dorms, the two entered the building's elevator, with Summer humming a tune while Naruto leaned on the elevator wall with his arms crossed. So, what do you think is going to happen? Summer questioned, with Naruto looking at her with a shrug. Probably a recon mission of Atlas. How do you know that will be what it's about? Summer questioned the blonde, who smiled at her. Oh, I don't know. The fact we got an instant recall to Beacon as soon as Atlas got here on their flight ship, Naruto said casually, with Summer puffing her cheeks out, making Naruto smile sincerely at the sight before the elevator doors opened to show Osmond waiting for them. Ah, Miss Rose, Mr. Grave, nice of you to join us on such short notice, Osmond said as Naruto looked to Merlin, who at the moment was going through reports. Stepping into his line of sight, Osmond spoke. If you may follow me, Headmaster Merlin is currently busy. Does it have to do with the recent Faunus kidnapping? Summer questioned, with Naruto giving her a look of confusion. No, we have another team looking into that, Merlin said, with the three turning to him as he now suddenly stood with a cane, smiling grandfatherly to Summer. She smiled back. I called you both here for a joint mission for your team's a reconnaissance mission, as you know, of the unexpected visit from Atlas. A few bullheads flew to the outskirts of El, and I wish for you all to report on what they're doing. If you wish, Merlin said with a smile, making Summer open her mouth. Naruto spoke. We'll get it done, Gigi, Naruto said with a confirming nod to the headmaster, who chuckled. Then do your best out there, and please, be careful, Merlin said, with the two nodding. Walking to the elevator with the doors closing, Summer turned to Naruto with a scolding look. What? You still need to work on your respecting skills, Summer said, with Naruto rolling his eyes with a smile. Yeah, well, my parents didn't teach me any of the fancy royalty treatment, so I kind of grew used to the normal vacuole greetings, Naruto said as the doors opened on the ground floor, allowing the two to walk out to find their teammates, with Naruto walking to where he sensed his own teammates. Stepping into the library, he found Vlad and Lucien reading, along with Jason sleeping calmly. Yo, we got our first mission, Naruto called out to them. A mission? But aren't we supposed to get missions next semester? Lucien questioned, with Vlad speaking for him. That system hasn't been implied yet, so basically all years get missions until the new system is up and running, Vlad said as he closed the book he was reading, a book he was currently writing having something to do with ninjas. Placing the book in his jacket's inner pocket, Vlad stood up, with Lucien moving over to Jason. The teen was woken up with a snort. What? We got an early mission. Come on, Vlad said casually as he followed after Naruto's retreating form, making Jason get up with a grunt, retrieving his mask while doing so. Walking to the dorm room, Summer saw Taeyang and Crow lying on their beds while playing on their scrolls. Frowning, she looked to the bathroom door to see Raven sitting at the bathroom sink, brushing her hair with care. We got a mission, Summer said, with Raven turning to her with a confused frown, while Crow turned his head, while Taeyang dropped his scroll on his face, making him sit up while rubbing his nose. Really? This early in the year? Crow questioned, with Summer shrugging. Is it to do with the sudden arrival of Atlas's sub-military branch? Raven questioned as she stepped out of the bathroom, showing her combat gear and weapon. Atlas sparked a suspicion with Headmaster Merlin, so we're going with Team Outcast to investigate where those bullheads were going, Summer said, with Raven nodding, looking to her brother, who was at the moment putting on his shoes. We'll meet up with you too. Raven said as the two females left, Summer already in her combat gear / casual wear, her white cloak also on her person, walking to the bulkheads with his team. Lucy and Wolfblood looked to the airship in awe as it docked at Beacon, followed after Naruto and Vlad. The four stopped to wait for Team Stork, watching the Atlas soldiers walking off the bulkhead. A man of higher ranking stepped out, showing a man in his 30s with crimson red hair and a cold stare. Lucian felt he knew the man from somewhere, while Naruto had the vibe of Shimura Danzo from him, with Kurama growling slowly at the colonel as he was escorted to Merlin's office, looking 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 in the direction, Naruto noticed the slightest of expression of recognition from the man's eye before he walked on. Watching the man walk away, Naruto and Lucien shared a look of suspicion before they continued on to the bulkhead at sea in Summer waving at them with Raven, with Crow and Taiyang running after their two female teammates. "So, have you been asking Raven out yet?" Jason questioned Naruto as they calmly walked towards the bulkhead. Summer and Raven entered. "We'll talk about that later," Naruto said with no room for argument, making Vlad laugh lightly with Lucien, walking to the bulkhead step with a hip in their step. Walking into the elevator with his escort, one of the men, dressed in respectable clothing of a lieutenant, turned to the colonel with questioning. "Sir, those two were the targets, weren't they?" the lieutenant said, with the man looking at him calmly. "Do not worry about them at the moment, Mr. Hyde. Your mission to retrieve them will be soon, so in the meantime, try to at least control your violent urges. Until then, we're guests here, as you can tell. Wouldn't want to make a scene now, do we?" Colonel Blood said as he fixed his collar as the doors closed. End of chapter 10. From the Grave I Crawl by Epic Insanity 666, chapter 11. Crashing through a tree with a lycanthropic Lucien catching him, Naruto rolled onto his feet as he held his right shoulder, looking up with the glare to the alpha beowulf that was being clubbed to death by Jason as Summer and Raven were dispatching creeps. Looking to the right where Crow and Taiyang were fighting and Ursa alongside Vlad, who slit its throat with two serrated daggers he called bloody. Dropping down with the Grimm's body fading as they regrouped, with Jason ripping the spine out of his target. Walking to Summer and Naruto, the two teams stood ready. "Alright, this much Grimm in the middle of the day, something is definitely up with Atlas," Naruto said as he replaced his empty weapon with an LMG. Loading in fire dust imbued rounds, Naruto pulled the lever back to fire. Looking around, the two teams moved to the landing point of the Atlas military unit, rolling his shoulders while the others followed, with Raven noticing Naruto's bleeding shoulder. Walking for a good hour or more, with Raven keeping an eye on Naruto, they stopped at hearing an inhuman roar, followed with gunfire. Looking amongst each other, the two teams rushed forward, with Raven keeping close to Naruto, who winced due to his shoulder. "Naruto, you alright?" Raven questioned, with the blonde looking to her. "Yeah, I'm fine," Naruto grunted as he kept up with the others until they turned to the left in time to see a monstrous monster explode from the ground, looking like a mix of a creep and a human. Going for a bit Naruto, Raven tackled him out of the way as the creep monstrously landed, snarling with a maw of teeth, gnawing wildly until its head was stabbed in place by Jason's machete. Looking to Raven and Naruto, he saw Naruto's shoulder bleeding from a nasty wound. "Naruto!" Jason yelled as he ran to his partner, while Raven sat him up. "Why isn't your aura healing him?" Vlad questioned as Crow had a frown of guilt. "I'm fine, just give me a minute," Naruto said as he was about to channel Kurama's chakra until Raven stopped him. "We're not going any further until we get your aura up and running. How you managed to get into Beacon without it is a surprise," Raven said as she placed a hand onto Naruto's shoulder, making the two stare each other in the eyes before Naruto sighed. "Let's get this over with. We have a mission to do," Naruto said as Raven rolled her eyes. Turning to the others, she spoke. "You all go on ahead. We'll catch up," Raven said, with the two teams nodding, moving ahead as Naruto and Raven stood up. With Naruto holding his shoulder, Raven placed her left hand on his shoulder and her right hand on his forehead, with Naruto catching her red cheeks. "For it is in passing that we achieve immortality. Through this we become a paragon of virtue and glory to rise above all. Infinite in distance and unbound by death, I release your soul, and by my shoulder protect thee," Raven said as she glowed a shimmering white, while Naruto's aura to the color of crimson red that flicked into cerulean blue before he let out a groan, making Raven open her eyes in worry as he fell forward, making her catch him as his shoulder began to heal with the effort of his newly unlocked aura, and Kurama, who felt like he was giving an adrenaline rush. What was that? What was that? The two spoke in unison as Naruto felt drained before his energy began to return, making him blink as he found his face in Raven's breast as she tried to stay standing until he stood up on his own feet. Feeling his balance return, he let out a grunt while shaking his head. That felt weird, Naruto said, with Raven smiling. If you say so, and it looks like your shoulder's healed, Raven said, with Naruto looking to said shoulder before he smiled. Nice. Thank you, Raven, Naruto said, with the beauty looking away with a blush. No need to thank me. Let's go. We have a mission to do, remember? Raven said before running after the others, with Naruto letting out a chuckle as he ran after her. Finding the rest of their teams hiding in a bush, Naruto looked to the clearing to see Atlas soldiers setting a perimeter with two large cages closed, five smaller ones already open and forgotten, but what kept getting his attention was the red shaders the usual armor had. What is this? Are they capturing Grim? Summer questioned, with Lucian and Vlad narrowing their eyes. No, the cages look like something broke out of them, and I can take a guess as to what's in the big ones, Vlad said as one of them shook violently with a human roar echoing outwards, making Lucian's skin crawl as it evolved into a howl, making him breathe more heavily in panic until Vlad and Naruto placed a hand on his shoulders. Don't panic, Naruto said with eyes glued to the cages. They haven't released what's in there yet, Vlad said before he noticed the Atlas soldiers moving into positions away from the cages. Releasing specimen in 2 minutes. Get clear, people. Turning to the bat fauners with a deadpan look, Vlad groaned in annoyance. I'll admit it, I jinxed it big time, Vlad said before Jason spotted a cockpit of the lead ship with a soldier waiting. If we get to that control deck before the 2 minutes mark, we'll be able to stop whatever they're doing and have a little peek of what they have caught up, Jason said, with Summer nodding as she raised her cutlass, loading the revolver barrels with fire dust rounds. The blades glowed, with Naruto bringing out two 9mm handguns with gravity dust loaded and ready. We'll split up. We'll circle around while you guys go to the right, Naruto said, with Summer nodding to his own group. Naruto led them around with silent ease, with Jason keeping low with his mask in his right hand while his left held his machete. Lucian followed on all fours, similar to keep up, but at a calm pace. Vlad merely followed by walking, his steps showing impossible silence. Vlad ducking behind a tree as the soldier jogged by. The four continued on before the four stopped and scouted any targets, ignoring the roaring from within the cage. Looking for any sign of Team Stork, Naruto spotted Taiyan crouched low behind two guards. Seeing Raven beside him, he waited for a signal, which happened to be Summer dive-bombing a group of soldiers who cried out in surprise, followed by Summer turning to Jason, nodding to each other. Naruto jumped up with Jason's right face colliding with his feet, the force in the punch sending Naruto forward with Vlad and Lucian following, Lucian swinging an axe downwards into the head of an unfortunate soldier who let out a dying cry of pain as Lucian rushed forward as Naruto shot at an soldier he saw, sending them flying back with the gravity rounds. He was joined by Summer and her team knocking out the soldiers, with Vlad aiming his sniper at the one who was at the controls. Sleep tight, Vlad said with a resounding crack echoing with his shot. Watching the poor soldier fall down backwards, the Bat Faunus went to help clear any runners. Taking down his good share of soldiers, the team now stood in the middle of the camp in the cage, rumbling with a roar echoing it. All right, let's take a peek, Jason said as he moved to the side of the cage in silence, with Lucian following closely, while Taiyang and Crow following, leaving Raven and Summer to check on Naruto, who rolled his shoulder. That shoulder's holding up, Summer questioned as they followed after the others. Yeah, still sore, but fine, Naruto said as they followed Jason to the controls. Seeing a screen, Jason was about to look over to the controls until Vlad ushered him aside. I'll handle the technology. Thank you, Vlad said with Jason sighing. Oh, come on. Your scroll short-circuited it once, Jason said, with Naruto adding his own words in, along with it becoming a homemade EMP. Naruto said, with Jason rolling his eyes. The Summer giggled at the scene as Vlad's fingers flew over the controls before the holographic screen on the console came to life, showing what was inside. His skin lost all of what color it had at what he saw in the cages. Guys, we may have a total shitstorm on the horizon, Vlad said, with Naruto and Summer moving to see what he saw. They paled at the sight of two human Beowulf Lucians, stared with a look of understanding as he watched one of the mutated faunas writhe in pain as he grabbed his left arm as it grew. My god, what have Atlas been doing? Taiyang questioned as he stepped back from the screen. Nothing good. Contact the headmaster. Well, he'll want to know this, Naruto said with Summer nodding as she stepped aside while he stared at the screen. What will we do with them? Lucien questioned as he palmed his axe, looking to Naruto expectantly. They're obviously in pain from what Atlas has done to them. We show them mercy. Vlad, see if there's an emergency terminate option in the system, Naruto requested, with Vlad nodding, looking through the system. He flinched with a frown beneath his glasses as the screen showed data being run. What the hell? Vlad questioned before he and everyone heard the cage gears shifting. Vlad! Naruto questioned urgently. It's not me. Someone's remotely opened the cages, Vlad said with a hysterical voice as his hands went to work stalling the doors from opening until they heard a crash, making them all freeze at hearing a loud roar from the now open cage. Making Lucien unlatch his axe, he held it with both hands, a look of genuine fear as they hid from the mutated faunus. The pain! Make it stop! Closing his eyes at hearing the pleading tone, Naruto went to take aim at the poor sawed head until it let out a roar of anger mixed with agony, followed by the other one before they stopped suddenly, making Naruto frown in confusion. Peeking out, he saw them frozen in a trance before suddenly bolting away into the forest. Away from Belle. Okay, anyone have a sense of foreboding right now? Crow questioned with Raven narrowing her eyes. Vlad, what happened? Naruto questioned the Bat Faunus as he went over the terminal with a furrowed brow. I don't know. I was about to activate the emergency kill system before I was shut out. Someone opened the doors remotely, Vlad said as he turned to the others, who stood in silence at the idea of someone from Atlas being the cause of this. Walking into an office within Atlas, a man in his early 20s stood in full lieutenant gear of the Atlas military with added red lines running down his sides, staring forward with eyes of pure focus and restrained power. Lieutenant Jacob Hyde stood at attention to a man in his 40s wearing general attire in all red. Report, Lieutenant Hyde, the general spoke in a commanding voice. The outpost near Bell has been breached, sir. Any casualties? Many on our side, along with the loss of the specimens. Who ordered their release? Ordered is such a simple word, General. Stepping aside, Lieutenant Hyde stared at the lead scientist of the subdivision of the Atlesian military with a look of disgust and slight respect. Dr. Selim, am I to understand that you are the one who put our division in the spotlight? Turning to the thinly built doctor, the general saw him smile wickedly. Of course I released them. It was the only way to gain the attention of our chosen specimens, the doctor said as he brought up 4 holographic images, one showing 3 young faces. One Dominic Grave, one Lucien Wolfblood, and Jason Vincent Voorhees. The fifth and final one, Vlad Depes Dracula. From what little history I gained from my sources, their bloodlines have come from outside of Remnant. Dr. Dracula's blood showing signs of increased agitation to sunlight, Mr. Wolfblood's strength of his immune system, and Mr. Voorhees' tolerance to fatal wounds. Dr. Sililum said with the general frowning at the last one to be spoken of. And what of Mr. Graves' blood? The increased look of excitement the doctor showed made him frown further. Accelerated healing without the use of aura. His genes are what we need to solidify our work. No more dying subjects or rabid outbreaks. No more. Looking to Lieutenant Hyde, the two stared each other down, Hyde's eyes slowly melting into blood red. No more barely successful subjects like him. Be that as it may, Doctor, Lieutenant Hyde has been spearheading our test by the dozens. What can these 4 people do to help us with? The general questioned, with the doctor slowly smiling wickedly. The simulations are deadly. End of chapter 11.